Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about, I think, politics, maybe. This will be a fun one. Wherever you stand, whichever side of the line you're on, we're going to hopefully shake your brain up a little bit and give you a new perspective. But I have an amazing guest with me who is safe and sound. He is across the pond. So he is not caught up in the election turmoil that we find ourselves in the US. But Mike Handcock, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Brandon, how are you?
I am fantastic. I maybe over advertised this episode a little bit. We're not fully talking about politics, and the election at the time of the airing of this episode is about a month ago. But ironically, we're recording this about a month before the election. So we don't actually know what happened. But Mike, I have a sneaky suspicion, you know, kind of exactly what's going to happen with the election in terms of how people are going to feel on the other side of it. And as business owners, that's really important. So why don't you tell me kind of what are we getting at here today? What are we talking about?
Well, it's really fun for me, Brandon, being somebody who was born in Australia, lived most of their life in New Zealand. Apart from a short time, I lived in LA, and for the last 10 years has lived in South Africa and is talking to you from France today. That I'm talking about politics in America. But here's the thing: is that regardless of who is president, as you're listening to this, your joy and your happiness and your success in business really has got nothing to do with them. It's really internal. And as you and I were talking just before the show, some of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time have come to rise up when the times have been the most tough. And if you look at things like, you know, the early part of this century is when Amazon rose up, right through the whole of the global financial crisis. People were going, where's my money going? Oh, I don't know. Let me buy a book on that online. And Jeff Bezos was getting richer and richer and richer. So even if you're happy right at the moment and you think, thank goodness that's over, we won, that's so fantastic. Guess what? In a year's time, it's not going to make any difference to you whatsoever, because whatever happens at government level, yes, it's going to affect your taxes. Yes, it's going to affect how some of your clients feel. But if your mindset is right, if you're keeping harmony within yourself, harmony in relationships with your spouse, with your clients, with nature, and with the country as a whole, guess what? You're going to be successful regardless of who's won and who's scampered off into the dark.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy topic to talk about because it's current, right? I mean, the election, like I said, was a month ago. We're inducting the new president. We're swearing the new president in about 6 weeks. So this is a current event, if you will. But in March, in June, in September of next year, it doesn't matter. Like, the president is the president for 4 years, but something else will come up. Whatever that is, I don't know. It could be another financial crisis. It could be natural disasters, whatever that is. I think what you're talking about is, yes, it's a current event of the election, but you're really talking about keeping your emotions and your mindset in check, regardless of your exterior world. Am I hearing you correctly?
Absolutely. I mean, what are we all going to do when the next president is AI, right? So
okay, wait, stop, Mike. We can't go that far in the show.
So, but it's funny because, like, everybody's talking about AI today, and you know, when I go to Facebook, all I used to see was ads for digital marketing companies, and now I see digital marketing is dead. You have to own an AI company. Well, I mean, that too will pass. It's no different than the Y2K bug that, you know, if you're old enough, you can remember that, and a bunch of other things that we were told, you know, is going to change all of our lives. In the end, if you're sure enough about yourself, if you're certain enough that you're a good person, that you have a good and well-researched product, that can hit the market, if you have great relationships, then regardless of who's in power, what technology is around, you can easily pivot, make changes, and work with your network or the people around you to build a fantastic life. And if it means you have to do some things differently, you have to do some things differently. I'm from New Zealand. I wasn't very happy about our election a couple of elections ago either, and it's proven to be right because the country is in a long, hard decline, which it's pulling out of, and most business people are unhappy. But the fact of the matter is that the business people that are able to get their heads straight and realize that I can only be accountable for me in here, not accountable for them out there, they're actually still doing very, very well. And so a lot of them are choosing to do business differently. A lot of them are choosing to do business in other countries. If you think of it like this, I mean, it doesn't matter where you are in the States. You know, your property market might be in summer. Say you're in California, you're in a summer with your property market. Prices have been good for some time. But if you're in Michigan, for instance, it might have been a long, hard winter for the property market there. So it's no different with our businesses and what goes on around us. If you're not happy with it, you have to change it. You have to move. Maybe you move state. Maybe you move, take this time to look at expanding your business out of the country. Maybe it's time to start thinking more laterally.
Yeah, I think, this is such a great topic because it's always relevant. Like you said, whether it's property, business, political, whatever, you're always in one of those four seasons. And you just have to kind of evaluate where you are, what that means for you, and what that could mean for you in terms of your definition of success. Um, and that's why I designed this show, because we always find ourselves in these different seasons in the different areas of our lives. And what somebody else says about where you should be doesn't really matter. But like where you say you should be does matter. And we want to find a way to get you there. So I'm curious, when we're talking about it doesn't even matter politically, we're talking about this in terms of business, right? So how can people kind of evaluate where they are now in terms of maybe strength of mindset is probably most important, because I'll be the first one to admit, I mean, a couple of months ago on the news, I don't really watch the news, but I was at the gym and I saw the headline, something like Russia may send nukes to the US. I'm like, hang on, that I might panic a little bit about that because nukes are no small thing to mess with. And I got shaken up for a minute before I was like, okay, wait, it's not really happening. They're just trying to grab my attention and put me in a fear state. So how can we evaluate where we are and then maybe take that next step in developing a stronger mindset, a stronger, more resilient mindset, so we can clearly evaluate our next step as business owners?
I love your example, Brandon, because I mean, if I go into a hotel now, I don't go to the gym, but if I go into a hotel now and there's a television on with the news on, it doesn't matter whether it's Fox, NBC, CNN, it doesn't matter which. I just say, can you turn that rubbish off? I say, do you have any idea what you're doing to your patrons here? And if they don't turn it off, just grab the remote and turn it off. Nobody ever turns it back on, or I ask them to put the sports channel on, right?
Mhm.
Because I think the thing here and the basis to part of your question is that we are responsible for our environment. So therefore, if we're listening to talkback radio instead of listening to Harmonious podcasts, right, then we're nuts because we're allowing all this BS to come into us. Whereas if we're listening to you and the good work that you're doing with great guests that are giving people such positive information, vibes, and showing them a future that they probably want, I mean, which one would you rather listen to? I know what I would choose. And it's crazy for me that, you get a salesperson who's got to make the next big sale in their job, and they're going to that top client and they're listening to like talkback radio and the outtakes of the election. I mean, are you crazy? What sort of mood are you going to be in by the time you get to your client? Why don't you just put on your favorite channel and boogie along to whatever your favorite music is, because then you'll be in a good mood. So I think the real answer to your question is, and I get asked this question in a different way a lot, why do entrepreneurs fail? And the answer to that question, which is really the answer to your question, is because they don't know who they are. They know what they do, they know their products and services, but they don't know what's in here. They don't know what's in their heart. So therefore, they don't see the world right. So their world is an influence of what their parents told them, what they saw on the news. We've talked about that. What their BNI, local BNI group thinks about this and that and the other, rather than starting to form their own attitudes and trusting their heart. I mean, I think for me, I saw enough, and if we'll talk politics, I saw enough politics in my country, and then of course we all see the US politics, to go, hang on, a lot of this is just BS, and a lot of this is grandstanding, and a lot of the agendas just that are real agendas that people are worried about aren't being talked about and aren't having anything done about them. So why don't I just do what I think is best for me? And firstly, I've got to know what's best for me. So you've got to understand some of your values. It comes down to values. So, for instance, for my wife, Lundy, and myself, our values are love, intuition, freedom, enrichment, and nobility. So we love to travel. We don't like to be tied down. We use our intuition. So if a client doesn't look right, we don't take them on. So it's those sort of things that I think that entrepreneurs have to develop. They have to develop a stronger sense of self and look at, are you in this business because it's an extension of your soul and something you just have to do for the world, your calling, or are you in this business because somehow you got a degree in computer technology and you thought you should start an IT company, but actually you don't really like it? So it comes down to those fundamental questions. And the people who got the IT degree and are in that business because they thought they should start one are probably the ones who are unhappy with the whatever results happen in politics this year or 4 years from now, because they're not living the life that they really want to live. And that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's so funny you talk about that because when I talk to the people who are most happy, satisfied with what they're doing, satisfied is a bad word, but they feel the most joy with what they're doing, and it's effortless, regardless of the monetary success. And I've seen it all the way up and down to from billionaires who I've spoken to, all the way down to people who don't have two pennies to rub together. They all start with core values. And it's funny because we always take our clients, regardless of where we meet them, we ask what their core values are. And if they don't have them in their business, we develop them with them. And everyone's like, this is dumb. I thought you were business consultants. I'm like, yeah, hang on. Like, please let us go through this exercise because you can't run a business unless you have that stuff down on paper for all the reasons you just said. You don't know who to work with. You don't know what to say yes and no to. You don't know who you are. And I see that very much in the personal development space is it's it's a lot of people who don't know who they are and they're looking for permission to be what really somebody else says they can be. And I have a little bit of reservation with that because I don't think it's up to somebody else. I really do believe it's up to you and your calling, and you have to figure out what that is for you. But when you talk about this, tell me about how somebody can go through and really figure out who they are without listening to the exterior noise of, well, I want to be like you mentioned, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Let's take the big entrepreneurs. How do you block that out and really figure out who I am at this present moment in time?
I think it's an excellent question, Brandon. And I would start by doing some research on myself. So if you've got the stuff around, go back and look at what you used to love as a child. So when my wife and I got together 11 years ago, she was at my house and she opened a trunk, and in there were all the books that I used to have at school. And one of them she opened up and she looked at it and she said, do you realize that you are the sum total of all of these books that you've kept since you're a child? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's all these books on travel. She said, you love travels. She said, there's all these books on World War II. She said, you're constantly watching World War II documentaries on television. She said, there's books on design and architecture. You're constantly trying to develop things, and you love property. And I went, oh, this is correct. And I could see that I'm the sum total of that. And then I'm a musician. So my life can't exist without music. I mean, normally I'm traveling at the moment, but if I was at home at the moment, I'd be able to reach and pick up any one of about 6 guitars, which would be within my reach from my normal place I do Zoom. So it's understanding your essence And for me, my essence is the musician, the globetrotter, and also the philosopher. And I guess you guys are experiencing some of that now. And they're the three things that I am. So it's how do I take those and build them into a career which serves my soul? And I could probably do something else and make $1 billion, but I don't subscribe to Gary Vee's Grinder or to Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club or anything like that. That's not me. I want to get up and relax. I want to work 4 days a week. I want to take 12 weeks a year holiday, and I want to live a comfortable life without anybody harassing me. And so that's the way I like to live. You as a listener may have somewhere different that you like to be, but you've got to look at what internally you can bring out of yourself. And I'd look at the YouTubes you watch, the books you read, the things that you are totally vested in. Talk to your friends and find out, what do you talk to them about the most? If you talk to them the most about politics, maybe become a politician, right? So if you talk to them about baseball, maybe start to do something in the baseball industry.
Mike, I love it. This is so fantastic. And I encourage everybody to do that because these apps, like you mentioned, YouTube, they're already doing this for you. They feed you the things that you're watching. They feed you more of that, and they really don't deviate other than maybe 1 or 2% of the time to see if you may grab onto something else. But they're building these algorithms of who you are. The internet knows who you are better than most people know who they are, which I think is fascinating. Full transparency for me, my YouTube search history is a lot of videos on cutting grass and how to have really, really green grass. So put it down below in the comments. Cool. What does your YouTube search history say about who you are and what your passions are? I'd love to hear it. Mike would love to hear it. Mike, this is phenomenal. Where can the listeners learn more about you?
Look, I think if they just simply want to connect with me, you can go to LinkedIn and just search my name, Mike Handcock, Handcock. Or if they want to engage a little bit more, go to the circleofexcellence.biz, B-I-Z, circleofexcellence.biz, which is our website. And right there's an assessment which we can help you with and give you a lot of guidance on what style of entrepreneur are you and what are you missing out on, which is the reason you're not more successful than you are now. And so you can do that in about 2 or 3 minutes, and you can get some feedback that most people find really useful. And it's not just feedback while do this. We also give you about 5 or 6 different business models in there that you can learn from simply for free, that you can grab and obtain there.
That's fantastic. It's on the screen if you're watching. It's down below in the show notes wherever you're watching or listening. So go check that out, along with the LinkedIn link right to Mike's page. So you can go connect with him there. Mike, before I let you go, though, I'd love to ask this one final question of our listener, of our guest, excuse me. And we just believe here that powerful questions get powerful answers. I think you resonate with that a whole lot based on how I've come to know you over the last 18 whole minutes. But I want to know for the listeners, what's a question that they can ask themselves if they want to up-level their life or their business, if they're in this period of, I don't really know what's going on in the world. What's that one question you think is going to be the most powerful that they can ask themselves right now?
If I only had 6 months to live, but I had to work during that 6 months and make an income, what would I choose to do with that 6 months?
I have never heard that question asked that way. That's very interesting. It's always, if you have 3 months, 6 months to live, what would you do? I've never heard it framed in the, and you had to work.
Well, the quality of life comes down to the quality of your questions, as you said, and what makes a quality question is how you frame it.
Absolutely. I love that question. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Brandon. See you in 4 years.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's an AI president so we don't have to go through this mess anymore. Anyway, Mike, thank you for being here. Thank you for you as the listener or the watcher, wherever you are. We love having you. This show has been going for almost a year now as of the airing of this episode. So thank you for being here, listening, watching. Make sure you subscribe. We want to keep putting these episodes out 5 days a week to keep your mindset right and help you grow your business and, of course, build a more harmonious business and life. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch.